Hey, and welcome to the latest episode of the PokePopCast. I'm recording this on August 11th. This is a month of major changes in the Pokemon organized play. World Championships are coming up in 2 weeks, and a lot of people are focused on that. But of course, the new tournament season has actually already started and started the end of last month. And there are tournaments in effect this month. People are scheduling league challenges, league cups, and all those points go toward the new season. Until a day or two ago, people didn't really know how the point structure, the championship points, would work. And it turns out there are some changes. And we're also going to go over a lot of the other major changes that are happening either right now or in the next couple of weeks, right after Worlds when the format changes. All right, let's start with the changes to the tournament structure. So we have the same general structure where we have league challenges and league cups and regionals and international championships and other special events. So that hasn't changed, but what we had last season, where championship points for league cups and league challenges were in the same bucket, caused some issues. Players, in their self-interest, and my number one rule is compensation drives behavior, and the way that the compensation of championship points had been put together, with one bucket for league challenges and league cups together. Obviously, the incentive was for players to play at cups and not so much at challenges. And that has hurt a lot of places around the country where league challenges had problems getting sufficient attendance. And so if you didn't have enough league challenges run, then you didn't get cups. So the effect of that this year was there's a lot of areas where there are cups not available to play that had cups previously. I think it's a good step. Sam Chen had a nice article he put together writing up with some other ideas that he had, and I think those might have been good ideas as well, but the way Pokemon decided to go with it was to separate the buckets for league cups and league challenges, and that's not a bad way to go about it. I think that should help. And they also have best finish limits. So let's start with league challenges. So league challenges, first of all, top 4 players in each age group will get points. So that's good. I think it was top 2 before, and then there's a kicker at 24 players going up to top 8. And that's the same for cups as well. So your top 4 players will definitely get points, and then if you get 24 players, then more points are available. Obviously, cups have more points than challenges, but both of them have a best finish limit of 2 per quarter. 2 per season. They call it per season, and the seasons don't line up exactly with quarters. But approximately quarters. So that should give incentive to players to balance their attendance of both of these events to maximize their potential for points. We go up to regionals. Regionals now has a best finish limit of 8. I don't think that affects a lot of players. There's been analysis that showed that there just weren't that many players that attended more than 8 regionals, let alone finished in the top finishes in more than 8 regionals. And international championships have a best finish limit of 4. So I think that should help a little bit with alleviating some of the stress of travel, of feeling like you have to go to every single event to keep up. By putting these limits here, you can plan a little better and have a bit more of a life, hopefully. So I think that should be good. We'll see how it plays out during the year. Now, in terms of the travel awards, That now is going to be a little bit different than how it had been. I won't focus on the way it had been, but the way it is now is it's going to look at your championship points in a given quarter, and then apply the points you've earned. The top earners in that quarter will get the championship awards to the upcoming international championship of the next quarter. That should still obviously give a lot of weight to those who do well at the international championships, because there's an awful lot of points available at those. But it does give some other players who aren't able to travel as much to those other international championships to have a chance at earning some of those travel awards, rather than it just being the same people earning those awards and basically being able to use that travel to make their points so much higher than other players who couldn't afford to travel on their own dime. So I think that should give a little more evenness to the opportunity. Now, the other major change, which happens every year, but of course is always at this time of year, is the format rotation. Now, even though the new season has already started, the format rotation does not happen until after the World Championship. So even though tournaments over the next 2 or 3 weeks count toward the 2019 tournament season, they right now are still using the older format that everyone's used to, and the same format that is going to be at the World Championships. Almost immediately after the World Championship on August 28th, that rotation is going to happen. So standard format, we're going to be going to Sun and Moon forward, and with that, a lot of staple trainers that people have gotten used to using for a number of years now are going to rotate out, and players are pretty much going to have to be reliant on supporters that are just not as powerful. In my opinion, that's a good thing. I think it should slow the games down a little bit. The games had gotten a little bit too fast. There are still going to be some good substitutes, especially with the new cards that just came out in Celestial Storm. But players will get used to that. Rotations happen. Cards go out of format. Cards come into format. It's just something has to be used to. Now, one of the nice things with Celestial Storm is there's a lot of reprints of some old favorites, cards that had been played a lot back in the day, 10 years ago, and even longer, and up to 15 years ago. And it's really just nice to see some of those cards come back again. So hopefully those will become staples again. The big change in Expanded, even though they haven't changed the beginning, it's still black and white on. A couple of more cards have joined the banned list, and I think as time goes on, we're going to see more and more cards joining the banned list, because unless they update the rotation at some point, which personally I hope they do. But as long as they keep this such a large number of sets in the format, there's really going to become broken combos, and more cards will have to be banned to prevent those combos from happening. So the cards that join the ban list this time around are Puzzle of Time and Wally. Puzzle of Time obviously allows for too much recursion of cards, multiple uses of cards that and so you can get a broken cycle going on there. And Wally, which allows for evolution on the first turn, which in combination with Trevenant can shut off the opponent from playing their game on the first turn of the game. So that's not a good thing to have. So we're going to be updating the legal card lists on the PokeGym site for both standard card lists and expanded card lists. We try to do it pretty close to when the rotations happen, because we want that resource to be what is legal currently, rather than what's going to be legal 2 weeks out. But we will get those changes done shortly, because there's only a couple of weeks left. And at that point, we'll have the links here. You can refer to there and see what older cards is the important part of that. What older cards are legal to play and what ones are not legal to play. And we also had a recent article for the cards from the new set of which of those trainers are legal to use the older versions. Not all of them are. So that's important to make sure that you use the cards that can be played and don't get a game loss or any similar penalty just for using an old card because you didn't pay attention to what was allowed to be used and what wasn't allowed to be used. Okay, now the tournament changes actually were released last month, and I did a video on those at the time. But just to touch on two major changes, because I'm seeing a lot of players and even judges not aware of these changes, and these are very major changes that people playing in tournaments really need to be aware of, especially judges who are running these. First off, I'll link to the article where I go through all the changes, but the two really major changes are, number one, sudden death is no longer a part of tournaments. So at League, you'll still have a tie game, you'll still have a sudden death game, put out a prize, and play. But in tournaments, that is now replaced with a tiebreaker game. And it's very similar to the sudden death game, where if a game ends, two players, it's not the same as a match being tied. This is a game being tied. And when a game is tied, previously sudden death set up for a one prize game. Now with the tiebreaker game, you set up with a 6 prize game. However, you only have to get to a point where one player is ahead on prizes, whether that's by taking one prize, or there are some of the Ultra Beast cards that that can change the number of prizes in play. So if you use the GX attack, that adds a prize to your opponent's prize cards. Now suddenly you're ahead on prizes because they have 7 prizes out and you have 6, so you've won. So that's the criteria for winning in the tiebreaker. You just have to get ahead on prizes. So if for example, something happens that both players' Pokemon get knocked out and both players take prizes, but the prize count stays even, the game continues until such time as someone is ahead on prizes. Okay. The other major change is in Top Cut. Game 2 had some special rules. If time was called during Game 2, you had to look to see if a certain number of prizes were taken to determine if that game counted or not. That's gone. Right now, Game 2 in Top Cut will be treated the exact same as Game 2 in a Swiss best 2 of 3 match, where if Game 2 is not completed, it just doesn't count. Winner of Game 1 is the winner of the match. Okay, so that simplifies things. I'm not sure of the exact reason for the change, but I can well imagine that it had to do with there being a lot of confusion among players, not realizing that difference, and this just simplifies things. So I can understand that. Okay, I think, let me just double check. Yeah, that's about it. That's covering enough stuff for today. And hopefully we'll see a lot of you guys at Worlds. I'm going to try to do something with some of the staff at Worlds, and hopefully that happens. But if not, have a great time playing Pokemon, and we'll see you next year.